winning means battlefield superiority. What was different about the Iran-US war?
For Iran, the mere fact that they could stand up to the US and Israel was a victory of sorts.
The US and Israel misjudged Iran's center of gravity.
In spite of this collapse at the leadership, how did Iran keep functioning as a country? How did their military keep functioning? That needs to be studied.
The US Navy's ability to physically destroy its adversary is meaningless.
Today, sea control also has to look at commercial confidence. How many ships are still struck? With small assets, with drones, with small boats, speedboats, and with mines, they've been able to disrupt the Strait of Hormuz.
Gulf countries are now reconsidering their basing arrangements with the US.
Well, they may reconsider, but that's a long-term thing.
Civilian infrastructure, which was seen as, you can't target them as military targets. Now they're being freely targeted because they're making the case that they actually enable the war effort.
Absolutely. Today, bulk of the people who are saying the war has to end are the Americans and others, because they're feeling the commercial pains of that war. I mean, if they had just targeted some, military personnel or military assets, that pain would not have been felt as it's being felt now.
Hello and welcome to Lessons from War, new series on Chakra News. I'm joined by Major General Jagatbir Singh, Armored Corps veteran, author, defense analyst, also the writer of a new piece on the lessons from the Iran-US war for India. General Jagatbir, welcome to my show.
Thank you very much, Sandeep, for calling me here. It's indeed a privilege and honor to be here on the platform with you today, to share this platform with you. And firstly, I must thank you very much for appreciating my piece, which I wrote for Chakra News. And more than that, thank you so much for publishing it.
Thank you. And we're going to talk more about that, the lessons from the Iran-US war in greater detail.
I look forward to that and engaging with you and your audience. I'm really looking forward to this interaction. Thank you.
General Singh, you made this point in your piece that Iran's win wasn't military, but it was strategic. They made it difficult for the war to be contained rather than outright trying to beat the US and the United States. Can you unpack that distinction for our listeners who assume that, winning means battlefield superiority? What was different about the Iran-US war?
Yeah, actually, Sandeep, you made a very interesting point. And I wrote that in my piece, that for Iran, the mere fact that they could stand up to the US and Israel was a victory of sorts. That is the whole thing. They felt that just by standing up, and they realized that they were weaker on certain fronts. They were weaker conventionally. They don't have the weapon systems. They don't have the army. They don't have the, command structure. They don't have those, missiles, which the US and Israel had. They never had any fighter aircraft comparatively. I mean, nothing. I'm saying in comparison. And yet, they were able to take on the US. And it's not happened all of a sudden. They have been taking on the US right from 1979. If you remember, go back in time. So there's 40 plus years, 46 years they've been doing this. And they've been studying the US over the years as to where their vulnerabilities lie. They've studied the vulnerabilities in Afghanistan. They studied their vulnerabilities in Iraq. And they also saw what they did right over there and what happened and how they should check that. So that is the main thing. So they reframed the rules of taking on the US. So they never countered them force to force, but they decided to take them on in different ways, which we can discuss during the course, and to ensure that, today the tide has shifted, the narrative has shifted, even though today, the MOU has collapsed, literally it's in tatters. But if you study the MOU, the mere wordings of the MOU is a sort of victory for Iran. US agreed to, allow the their sanctions to be lifted as
Right.
far as the oil goes, and to compensate, give them back certain amount of money. I mean, which is their own money lying frozen.
Right.
So I mean, things were there. There's no talk of this nuclear enrichment. So these are things
Right.
that need to be studied, need to be analyzed.
Absolutely. And you've also written that the US and Israel misjudged Iran's center of gravity.
Yeah, that
Center of gravity is something that you're very
center
well
of
versed with.
gravity is something that everybody looks at. Now look at the Indian case, yeah, where
Right.
we took 1971.
Yeah.
Initially, our center of gravity was not Dhaka.
Right.
General Sagat Singh decided to seize Dhaka, and you saw how the Pakistan army collapsed at
Right.
that time.
Right.
So identifying the center of gravity is extremely important. Now the Americans had laid out 5-6 war aims.
Yes.
I mean, if we go, the first one was the so-called military-industrial complex of Iran.
Yeah.
Then was their ballistic missile. Then
Right.
was their nuclear enrichment. Then was the targeting of the naval assets. Then
Right.
was the targeting
Proxies.
of the proxies.
Right.
And also, which was number one, but they never mentioned, was the leadership. And to do
Regime
that,
change,
regime change. And to do that, they had, fomented. There was trouble in Iran earlier. People
Yes.
were out on the streets, and they felt the minute you target the regime, Khamenei, the supreme leader,
Yeah.
things will change. Everything will go. But it never happened.
Right.
What happened was totally different.
Right.
You've just had Khamenei's funeral, which took place
Right.
over 6 days. And what has come out is his popularity,
Right.
which no one had expected.
Right.
So what did they do? Now, what did Iran do? They changed, and they went for the, Strait of Hormuz, which was never there. Their Strait of Hormuz was functioning earlier. Ships were going through. Everything was happening. Today, the focus of the world is on the Straits of Hormuz, on the reopening of the Straits of Hormuz.
Right.
So something has gone wrong as far as the American identification of that center of gravity is concerned. Now, America, President Trump was also, may have got a sense of, bravado, may have got a sense of, because of what happened in Venezuela lately,
Right.
where they, were able to go in, pick up the president, replace
So walk
them
over
with
the man.
to walk over over
Right.
there. So he felt the same thing would
Right.
happen there. They'll kill him, and pro-Iranian regime, and they were priming up the Shah's son to come in his place, little
Right.
realizing that the Shah's dynasty was also very unpopular in its time. It was
Right.
seen as too pro-West. So,
Right.
I mean, there's the fact which is there. So, in spite of this collapse at the leadership, how did Iran keep functioning as a country? How
Right.
did their military keep functioning? That needs to be studied.
That's
That needs to be analyzed.
So there's another point that you made in your piece where you said that, commercial confidence is now part of sea control. That's a very interesting postulation where you said that the US Navy's ability to physically destroy its adversary is meaningless. And Trump kept saying, we have sunk so many ships, we've sent them to the bottom of the Arabian Sea or the Gulf of Oman or something, but they've been attacking their submarines, they've knocked out all their combatants, but the Iranians continue to keep fighting. So how did...
I wrote that thing. I said, today sea control also has to look at commercial confidence.
Right.
Like you said, if you go track, in the article I've given, there are people who track the movement of ships. The
Yes.
movement of ships came down by 92%.
Right.
So, I mean, that's a huge figure. Today,
Right.
their ships still stuck. 1 month, 17th of June, the MOU was signed.
Yes.
Today, we're on, you can say, 14th of July, nearly
Yes.
1 month ago. How many ships are still stuck?
Right.
There's a problem that took place day before yesterday because the center of the Strait of Hormuz is mined.
Right.
Iran says come on our coast.
Yeah.
Whereas the Omanis say come on their side.
Right.
And the ships which went on the Oman side were struck by Iran.
Right.
The ships that have gone this side have been struck by US. So, I mean, but US has a huge, huge navy.
Right.
It's the largest. Now, of course, China is going to...
In terms of numbers, the US
yeah.
has
Yeah,
fewer ships.
and they're
but-
deployed all over.
Right.
What does Iran have? Nothing.
Right. But, despite that... So
and
you're saying,
despite that, with small assets,
yeah.
with drones, with small boats, speed
Right.
boats, and with mines, they've been able to disrupt the Strait of Hormuz.
Right.
And this is not the first time we've seen something which is so asymmetrical taking
Right.
place. The same thing has happened in the Black Sea as far as the
Yes.
Russian fleet is concerned. Also, you saw
Right.
the Russian ship Moskova got struck by a missile.
Yeah.
So I mean,
4 years back.
4 years back. So this is
So the nature of warfare itself
nature of warfare has changed.
is
So
changed.
you can't say I've got a huge army, I've got the latest weapons,
Right.
I've got the willingness to use those, but the manner in which you use them and the
Right.
manner in which your adversary responds,
Yes.
that is something that needs to be seen, studied, and analyzed.
Right. So could the US and their allies have prevented this collapse in confidence on the part of the commercial, lines, the shippers? Could they have kind of, promised them convoys, escorts, demine the straits? Was that something that they completely left out of their
I think
planning?
If you ask me in hindsight, now they're trying to do it.
Right.
Today, both sides are trying to say that we'll impose taxes, we'll ensure, safe passage. President Trump yesterday only announced, I'll charge 20%,
Right.
To ensure safe passage. But the safe passage means that the mines have to be cleared and they're
Right.
too close. There are also coastal batteries over there. There are
Right.
mines also. So
Right.
when you come into a restricted area, unless you are able to sanitize everything around you, the American ships are at a risk of being
Right.
targeted. And the Iranians had realized this. Now, for them today, the leverage of Straits of Hormuz is far greater value and far more critical for the rest of the world than their leverage of having, nuclear weapons. That's what, the war demonstrated. The entire focus of the world has shifted on reopening the Straits of Hormuz to keep this important choke point flowing as far as energy goes. And which are the countries affected most by this? China, India. We are the largest market,
oil consumers in the
consuming
world.
country.
Right.
And which is the other side affected? All the Gulf states are affected because unless
Right.
India and China buy the oil, who will they sell to? How
Right.
can they go?
Right.
So yesterday, in fact, there was a very interesting development. Who's the beneficiary from this?
Right.
In the long term, maybe Syria,
Right.
because they want a gas pipeline.
Right.
But that gas will go to Europe, not come here, because imagine if it goes out to a Syrian port and then transported by air, by sea to India,
Right.
it will increase the cost.
So that explains why the West is, making peace with Shara, the leader of Syria and former Al Qaeda.
Absolutely, and Macron visited Syria the other day.
Right.
So this is one of the things.
Another interesting point you made, General Jagatbir, in your piece is that Iran escalated vertically and horizontally in a way that nobody had expected.
Yeah.
Describe for us what you mean by this simultaneous vertical and horizontal escalation.
So simultaneously vertical means that you hit me at some point, I hit you at a point which is either deeper
Right.
or more vulnerable or target an asset of yours. So
Right.
the same country. But what Iran did is when they were targeted, and this is with Israel, they hit
Right.
Israel. And they even hit the Israeli Dimona nuclear plant around that. So, they hit that. So, that is what you call vertical escalation. So, you hit me, I hit the American aircraft carrier, which is hitting me. What did they do? They said that we'll do horizontal. So, they started off now by hitting American bases in countries which were around them. So, they hit the American bases, which were meant to be absolutely safe. So they hit American bases in the Gulf. Now they went one step further. They said, we'll hit those systems that, sustain their war effort of these countries. So they hit the energy infrastructure. They're hitting their own the infrastructure of those countries. They hit certain buildings so that, their financial markets would get rattled.
Right.
Everybody's portfolio was hit in different ways. So they hit 6 to 7 countries. Yeah. Now, can you imagine? You've been taken on by Iran and Iran was taken on by US and Israel, and they've targeted Gulf countries. That is,
half a dozen Gulf
countries, and they've even went as far as targeting Jordan recently, yesterday, and Cyprus.
Yes.
So, this is the thing. a lot of the strikes that were carried out on Iran were
Yeah.
carried out by assets which were not located in these Gulf countries by the US. They
Right.
were carried out by assets located in Europe, which came and
Right.
overflew and hit them. So that is the degree. Just
Right.
see how they changed it. Now there's a lot of confidence in these countries as far as the world was concerned. They'd invested heavily in these countries.
Right.
And suddenly these countries now seem to be, lacking that defense umbrella that was
Right.
guaranteed to them, security umbrella by the United States. And the investor confidence in them is also shifting.
So this targeting the US bases in these Gulf countries seemed to have been a Iranian ploy to kind of fracture the coalition from within.
Yes.
Do you think the Gulf countries are now reconsidering their basing arrangements with the US?
Well, they may reconsider, but that's a long-term thing. So they've already they've started talking to Pakistan to give them certain amount of security. You've
Right.
seen a Saudi
Yes,
Pakistan
there's a
pact.
Pakistani contingent in
Contingent,
Saudi
yeah,
Arabia,
yeah. So, I mean,
Air Force, and
Yeah, and they will also now diversify their relationship. So they'll diversify relationship. UAE will start getting closer to India as far as defense cooperation goes. So
Right.
they will diversify their thing. And their main thing is that the trust in US has
Yes.
been reduced. Their trust in US
Right.
has been reduced to a
Right.
great degree because they felt the US could not defend them. So I
Right.
mean, this is something that needs to be seen, and you've seen the behavior. And what is surprising is how much have the Gulf countries retaliated to the Iranian strikes.
Right.
So
That's true.
Yeah.
Another point that you made, General Jagatbir, is that, you said that legitimacy of targeting decisions may become as strategically important as the strikes themselves. How does a democracy like India, for instance, build legitimacy into an AI accelerated targeting
So
loop?
I mean,
That's
this
a
is
big
something
issue.
which I've written because everyone talks of AI.
Yeah.
You see, the number of targets that were engaged the first day, 70 targets, could not have been engaged unless AI was involved.
Right.
Now, frankly saying, at what point do
Yeah.
you have AI? Till what point do you have
Right.
AI?
Right.
So, I mean, these are the two things.
Yeah.
And if you have AI, how much do you allow AI to dictate things for you? So the
Right.
girls' school was targeted.
Yes.
It was targeted based on certain inputs that
Right.
would have come. AI felt it was a legitimate target.
Right.
Ultimately, what was proven, the narrative was that it was a girls' school, 150 children died in that.
Was it an
Teachers' children-
AI problem or was it a old-fashioned targeting failure that
I
we've
think
seen in the
more it
past?
would have been an AI problem in this case.
Right.
So that's why I say that today you have to be very sure when you go in for AI.
Right.
I don't think a decision by somebody would have been taken to physically target a girls' school. We had a case many years ago
Right.
when during the Iraq war also, where a bomb shelter was targeted, where
Right.
270 people died.
Right.
That was also horrific at that time. So, I
Yes.
mean, mistakes do take place. And President Trump was asked about this, and
Right.
he's said very clearly,
It was in the past.
it was in the past. That's
Yeah,
what he said at
something
the
like that, yeah.
G7 summit,
Yes.
but it's not in the past. So, I
Right.
mean, increasingly, as you go ahead,
Right.
there has to be a fine balance between how much you can, because the speed is changing such a lot of
Yeah.
decision making, of acting, that
Right.
OODA loop has got compressed to such a degree that these sort of mistakes can take place, will take place in future,
Right.
but the fallout will be far greater. Now, if
Right.
they hadn't targeted that, there would have been no fallout. But now the Iranians cashed in on that. He came for his first meeting in a plane with that, girls' school painted on it.
Yes.
The foreign minister.
That's right.
Yeah, and they had photographs of the kids who died
On
there.
all the chairs.
On
Yeah.
all the chairs. So,
Right. Right.
they did that.
Right. But other points that you mentioned, General Jagatbir, set me thinking that you're talking about data centers being targeted. There are, in the Russia-Ukraine war, for instance, refineries are being targeted. What are the lessons for India from these wars? I mean, does it mean that earlier civilian infrastructure, which was seen as, you can't target them as military targets, now they're being freely targeted because they're making the case that they actually enable the war effort? What are the lessons for India? Does it mean that we need to start hardening our infrastructure?
Absolutely. Look at the thing. Earlier, the main target to target were military targets. target his, key military command and control system, target his air defense system, target his, uh, uh, armor concentrations. Go for. But what have they done now? They've targeted data centers of countries, of companies such as Amazon,
Right.
for one. Now, imagine if this data center, everyone talks of cloud, but cloud is not something up there. It exists on ground. Huge thing with, electric backup, with
Yeah.
air conditioning, with people. Okay, there you target that, all your data is kept there. So how do countries function? Now imagine if you have your own data stored in your country
Right.
in some place and people target that. So now you have to start thinking of, can you keep all your data in your country? Do you need to have certain amount of your data stored outside in
Right.
so-called, data embassies in your own, places? Is it a case reverse that instead of people now, these big companies, instead of storing their data in the Gulf, which is a region under threat where there's
Right.
Iran-Iraq war, will the Iran war will continue? Will they start storing data in India? In certain data
Right.
centers can come up in India. Is this another opportunity for India? Can we look in that direction? Can we store data of, say, countries like Singapore here? Can we store data of the Amazon here? So, I mean, that's something that needs to be seen.
Right.
But this is something which is increasingly there. They've targeted data centers, they've targeted oil infrastructure, they're targeting, what did they target in Ukraine first? They targeted the energy setup, the
Yes.
dams, they targeted their nuclear power plants,
Right.
today they are targeting the oil refineries in Russia. The Russians are queuing up for oil. So, I mean,
Right.
they want the pain to be felt outside the military. So, I mean, that's where the popular opinion rises against the regime. So, I mean,
Right.
that's what they feel. So, I mean, today, bulk of the people who are saying the war has to end are the Americans and others, because they're feeling the commercial pains of that war.
Right.
I mean, if they had just targeted some, military personnel
Yeah.
or military assets, that pain would not have been felt as it's being felt now.
So, General Jagadbir, what is the one lesson that you would want the MEA, the Defense Ministry, to take away from this war? Given the fact that we've seen our energy vulnerabilities being probed because, 80-90% of we're so dependent on the seas for everything from energy to commerce and everything. So what is the one big lesson to your mind that we need to take from this Iran war?
So, I've always said this, that we have to be very clear of what is our vision of our threats
Right.
and what is the vision of our war in future. How is it going to happen? Is it going to pan out in the manner which we've always thought? Start from the borders, hit our, military assets, or is it going to cascade in all directions which are not known for?
Right.
Are they going to be short wars? Are they going to be prolonged long wars like Chairman Mao that time spoke about?
Right.
Prolonged wars, which Iran is prepared for a long war.
Right.
So, I mean, that's something. Which are your assets that are now vulnerable?
Right.
Are your military assets more vulnerable? Or imagine if they target something like, say, your Reliance refinery or the Indian oil,
Jamnagar. Right.
yeah, or the Indian oil refinery.
Right.
If someone target, will that affect me more? Imagine if they target some, your IT centers in Bangalore or Hyderabad. Will
Right.
that affect me more on the global scale? So, I mean, people are going to find your vulnerability. Your main assets now can
Right.
turn to your vulnerability. So, how do you protect them?
Right.
What measures does the country give to protect these? I mean, these are things that have to be thought in the long term, and there has to be greater integration between, you can't work in silos anymore. It has
Right.
to be a whole nation approach. So you have the Army, Navy, Air Force together with the people in government, and the private sector has to be involved more and more, because the private sector is getting affected.
Right.
And people like you in the media have a major role to play, because
Right.
the narrative is the thing which is there, because everybody is targeting you in the mind. The
Yeah.
cognitive,
Cognitive warfare.
domain is the
Absolutely.
main thing. So, I mean, unless you shape the narrative,
Right.
prepare people for this, but you can't just think that this will not happen. These
Yeah.
wars have shown us that anything can happen and anything is possible. So we need to prepare for our next crisis. And the
Right.
other thing we have to do, which is the most important thing, is that we have to start building our own capabilities and capacities. And that's where we have to move in that direction, because you cannot depend on anybody else at that time. So unfortunately, we are not a oil, producing country.
Right.
So you have to build and have your storage facilities and reserves. You
We need
have
to
to,
increase our
you have
storage
to, you have
capacity.
to build that. And same way, as far as your defense capabilities are concerned, the future only lies in Atmanirbhar Bharat.
Right.
So you
Absolutely.
have to build your own capabilities. So you
Right.
have a huge pool of scientists. You have everybody like that. So in
Yeah.
India, manufacturing has to diversify from public sector, and you have to start depending more and more on the private sector. But there has to be, as I've always said, coordination between the public sector, private sector, academic researchers, and the users,
An all of nation
and all of
approach.
nation, and
Right.
the bureaucracy. So I mean,
Right.
until you do that, things have to move much faster than they are moving now.
Right,
That's what.
absolutely. So I was just thinking of where we were 6 years back, Gen Jagatbir, with COVID, and that is possibly the last time that we saw a war effort, an all of nation approach, where the whole country came together literally to fight this virus. But in conclusion, what are the lessons for India when you're facing a more powerful adversary? Can we borrow from the Iranian playbook in terms of asymmetric warfare? Do we have the right tools to fight that kind of warfare? Because a lot of people say that, oh, we are a democracy, we can't do choke point warfare, we can't fight the way the Iranians did. What, to your mind, are the lessons that India must draw when you're confronted with a superior
You
adversary?
see, you draw lessons from any conflict, any country. But those same lessons cannot be applied in the manner in which those countries have applied those lessons. So you draw those lessons and you modify your abilities based on your own threat perceptions and your own terrain and your own capabilities, and you apply them in the Indian context.
Right.
Now, just look at what the Iranians did when they felt that their leadership was decapitated.
Yeah.
They just carried out what we call mosaic sort of warfare, mosaic defense. So you have people in the front line, which were their regular troops. They were backed by their, IRGC. They're backed by Basij units. They are back. They had, ready to put up asymmetric. They had missiles. They had small naval, vessels.
Yeah.
And I mean, and they had the narrative. Today, the narrative in the world is changed. So, I mean, there's a lot of lessons that India can do. India's learning from this, but this is a great time, like you brought out, for all our training institutions, the military training institutions, to pick up these lessons and, to explore what is the future, where we can put it. Not only, exploiting these lessons by digging deep into this, but also looking outside the box. If they've done this, what more can we do? We need to look out as far as exploring what more we can do with these same things. Yes, you're right. We are taking on two. Actually, I've always said that it's not two thing. We have one consolidated fused threat. That is China and Pakistan are together in more ways than one. And how do we take them on is what is the question. We have to be prepared for that. And yes, we have our own choke points also. A very vulnerable choke point we have. We actually control the entrance to the Gulf of Malacca, Malacca Straits.
Yeah.
That 10-degree channel which is down in the Andaman. So I mean, what can we do as far as that is concerned? China, because of that vulnerability, built the CPEC.
Yes.
And went around. So I mean, these are things which are there. I'm sure those who are now, planning all this, looking at these lessons, are going into this. Some will be out in the open domain, some will not. But yes, all armies have learned lessons from these conflicts. Like I said, Iran also picked up lessons from America's vulnerabilities and their successes in the earlier conflicts where they had gone, and applied those now. So, I mean, this is something that...
You think Iran kind of borrowed from Op Sindoor? Because our war was fought when? In May 2025 with Pakistan, the 88 hours. And in February, you saw the Iranians doing exactly what we did, which is to basically attack all the air bases of the Pakistanis rather than, focus on the
Well,
fighters.
the first time we fought Sindoor in May 2025, they fought the 12-day war in June 2025.
Yes.
So that time also you saw the exchange of
Right.
missiles taking place between Iran and Israel. But now what they've done is, yes, they have picked up. Everybody picks up from other things.
Right.
They have picked up this precision strike capability. Today, the precision weapons are going to play a major role in warfare. Firepower delivered by these precision means to give a point. And I must say that India's demonstrated certain capability during Operation Sindoor, which I don't think our adversary was ever prepared for.
Right.
That 88-hour war
Yes.
conflict actually brought home certain very, very telling points as far as the Indian ability to conduct operations at this scale, coordinated operations between the Army, Navy, and the Air Force at that scale.
Right.
And with the precise manner in which they hit them. And exactly, but we hit terrorist targets at that time.
Yeah.
The Iran now expanded that, and they started hitting American targets, in the Gulf countries, but also hit civil infrastructure. We never hit any civil infrastructure. So that's the
Absolutely.
difference.
That's the difference. But
Yeah.
so lots to unpack there, General Jagatbir. Thank you for taking the time out. Thank you for your thoughts. Most interesting, as always, speaking with you. And for those of you who want to read what Major General Jagatbir wrote, you can see his article. It's appended in the description right below this video. Thank you very much for joining us, General Jagatbir. Look forward to speaking to you
Thank
again.
you very much, Sandeep, for calling me here. And it's indeed a pleasure for me to interact with you and all your viewers. Thank you, and Jai Hind.
Thank you, sir. Jai Hind.